बात सर, शर्मा सर के लैपटॉप में कुछ प्रॉब्लम है, तो वो दूसरे लैपटॉप से कोशिश कर रहे हैं सर।
Yes, sir has joined. Yes.
नमस्कार डॉक्टर साहब।
नमस्कार डॉक्टर साहब, नमस्कार। सॉरी, थोड़ा समय लगा, वो मेरा सिस्टम।
जी, नो प्रॉब्लम, नो प्रॉब्लम।
यहाँ इनके एक्सपर्ट पंडित सुंदरलाल शर्मा के, उन्होंने काफी हेल्प कर दी। वो बेचारे अपना लैपटॉप ला करके सब एंटर करके
राइट
तुरंत ज्वाइन कराए।
टेक्नोलॉजी डज नॉट ऑलवेज कोऑपरेट।
इसलिए आपके बिहाफ पर और आप अपने बिहाफ पर हमने उनको थैंक्स दे दिया है कि भाई आपने जो है तुरंत वो करा दिया।
तो शुरू करें प्रोग्राम?
जी जी, काइंडली।
ओके, स्वाति, गो अहेड।
ओके सर। नमस्कार, सुप्रभात to one and all present online here. Well said. Intellectual growth should commence at birth and cease only at death. On behalf of Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, I, Dr. Swati Dubey Mishra, Associate Professor, Sri Vaishnav Institute of Forensic Science, present a gracious welcome to you all in the inaugural ceremony of 6th National Symposium Samvachyy on the theme Emerging Issues and Innovative Forensic Practices for Sustainable Development. We are fortunate to have with us Dr. G.D. Sharma, Honorable Vice Chancellor of University of Science and Technology, Meghalaya, and Vice President, Association of Indian Universities, as a chief guest. Welcome you, sir. We have with us Dr. Upendra Dhar, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Dr. Rakesh Kumar Goria, Professor and Head, Gyan Sagar Medical College, Patiala, Punjab, Dr. Santosh Dhar, Rector, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Dr. K.N. Guru Prasad, sir, Dean Science, including Agriculture and Forensic Science, Director, Sri Vaishnav Institute of Science, Dr. Ashutosh Shukla, Convener, Samvachyy, and Coordinator, Sri Vaishnav Institute of Forensic Science, Dr. M.P. Gautam, Advisor, Samvachyy, and Professor, Sri Vaishnav Institute of Forensic Science, Mrs. Poonam Yadav, Coordinator, Samvachyy, and Assistant Professor, Sri Vaishnav Institute of Forensic Science. I welcome you all. I extend a cheerful welcome to the galaxy of intellectuals from industries and academia, dignitaries, delegates, deans, HOIs, HODs, faculty members, and participants joined online here across the India. Light symbolizes a ray of hope, victory over darkness and defeat ignorance. It marks the beginning of auspicious movement and events. Now, we are going to witness our traditional auspicious lamp lighting ceremony online as a tribute to Ma Saraswati. I now request technical team to please play the video.
या शुभ्रवस्त्रावृता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युतशङ्कर प्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती निःशेषजाड्यापहा
Atithi Devo Bhava. Following this culture, now I request Dr. Upendra Dhar, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, to virtually welcome our chief guest, Dr. G.D. Sharma, Honorable Vice Chancellor of University of Science and Technology, Meghalaya, and Vice President, Association of Indian Universities. Thank you. Now, I invite Dr. Ashutosh Shukla, convener, Samvachyy, to brief us about the symposium. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, madam. Namaskar and good morning to all dignitaries gathered today. Honorable Chief Guest of today's function, Dr. G.D. Sharma, Vice Chancellor, University of Science and Technology, Meghalaya, and Vice President, Association of Indian Universities. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Upendra Dhar, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore. Esteemed resource persons, Rector and Dean, Dr. Ashutosh Dhar, HOIs of constituent institutions of Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, dear participants, guests, and students. I welcome you all from depth of my heart. Just to brief, the word symposium originally came from symphony, used by ancient Greeks, later By the end of 18th century, British speakers started using the word symposium for meetings, in-depth discussions, exchange of ideas from experts within the field. And today, of course, we gathered for the same cause under Samvachyy, with the theme emerging issues and innovative forensic practices for sustainable development, because it is very necessary to talk about sustainability. Therefore, we gathered today, and today in this our symposium, there are two sessions, or we can say two interactive sessions, which were deliberated by our intellectual speakers, Dr. Rakesh Kumar Goria, Professor and Head, Gyan Sagar Medical College, Patiala, and he will be talking on history and scope of forensic odontology. Then our another esteemed speaker, Dr. Vimukti Chauhan, Assistant Director, Forensic Toxicology Division, Center Forensic Laboratory, Chandigarh, will deliver her talk on forensic toxicology and its significance. The session shall be chaired by Dr. Ken Guru Prasad, Dean and Director, Shri Vaishnav Institute of Science, Shri Vaishnav Vidyapit, Vishwavidyalaya. The second plenary session shall be enlightened by Dr. Kapil Kumar, Associate Professor, Department of Biochemistry and Coordinator Forensic Science, Gujarat University, Ahmedabad. His topic of deliberation was investigating forensic documents in bank fraud cases. The session shall be chaired by Dr. M.P. Gautam, Professor, Shri Vaishnav Institute of Forensic Science. Now, after completion of each plenary session, the chairpersons shall allow participants to interact with our esteemed resource persons for their queries. At the end, I congratulate well in advance to all participants for having an opportunity to listen intellectual talks by today's eminent speakers. With this, happy learning and thanks again. Madam, over to you.
Thank you so much, sir, for briefing us about the importance of symposium. Our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. A man who inspires us, make us be the best person of ourselves. May I now request to Dr. Upendra Dhar, sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor, to address the August gathering. Over to you, sir.
Good morning to all of you. Respected Professor G.D. Sharma, Chief Guest on this occasion, our resource persons, Dr. Rakesh Kumar Goria from Patiala, Dr. Vimukti Chauhan from Chandigarh, Dr. Kapil Kumar from Ahmedabad, all colleagues, directors of various institutes, guests, and my dear students. At the outset, I would like to welcome our guests. And also I would like to thank respected Professor G.D. Sharma for accepting our request to join on this occasion. See, technology has made things very easy. Professor Sharma is in Meghalaya and we are in Madhya Pradesh.
Yes.
But thanks to technology that we are able to get connected. As technology impacts almost all the domains of life today, and it will go on increasing, having influence on what we do. In the area of crime, also technology has an impact. As we can see that on one hand, those who commit crimes, they are also using technology. We are experiencing cyber crimes today and even other kinds of crimes where technology is used as a tool to escape the clutches of law. Forensic scientists have also progressed a great deal. It's an emerging science and have been doing great service to the society. Demand is also increasing so far as forensic science is concerned, forensic scientist is concerned. I do not have the statistics of the need that we have in India, but in United States, with all the forensic technology, the field is one of the fastest growing disciplines. And one way to measure this is in the increased demand for forensic science technicians. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, that is in United States, there will be an 11% increase in jobs for forensic science technicians and scientists between 2021 and 2031. They have given a projection of 10 years. I do not have Indian statistics, but I'm sure that during today's symposium, our experts will be sharing the Indian status. See, so far as the technology is concerned, innovations are concerned, there are various areas where we can see that forensic scientists are taking steps which were not done earlier. For example, carbon dot powders. Fingerprints are essential for analyzing many crime scenes. However, there are many reasons why it may be hard to see one clearly, including low sensitivity, low contrast, or high toxicity. Researchers have developed a fluorescent carbon dot powder that can be applied to fingerprints, making them fluorescent under ultraviolet light and subsequently much easier to analyze. With this new application, fingerprints will glow red, yellow, or orange. This is one of the innovations that has been reported in recent past. Then again, see, as we have been talking about artificial intelligence, and particularly during COVID, we started talking more about artificial intelligence and its application. We can see application of artificial intelligence in forensic science also. While artificial intelligence has been used in many other fields for decades, it is relatively new to forensic science. This is primarily because all evidence and the analysis must stand up in court. However, recent advancements have seen artificial intelligence utilized successfully in all forensic components of a criminal case. While artificial intelligence is most often used in digital forensics, it is increasingly used to analyze a crime scene, compare fingerprint data, draw conclusions from photograph comparisons, and more. Similarly, nanotechnology, another area, atomic and molecular technology are finding their way into forensic science. Analyzing forensic materials at this minute level, can offer scientists insights that previously were not accessible. Nanosensors are being utilized to examine the presence of illegal drugs, explosive material, and biological agents on the molecular level. Specific advancements, this very recently included scientists' ability to analyze the presence of carbon and polymer-based nanomaterial to make their determinations and aid investigators. So this is the third area. So carbon dot powders, use of carbon dot powders, 1, artificial intelligence, 2, nanotechnology, 3, then proteins. Forensic scientists have traditionally relied heavily on DNA to determine a suspect or victim. However, advances in detecting and identifying proteins have made proteins in an essential forensic science tool.
Yes.
Proteins are a complete set of proteins produced by an organism. Scientists can find proteins in blood, bones, and other biological areas. Well, then fold scope is another area. Fold scope. The fold scope is a small, disposable, inexpensive paper microscope that has been around since 2014. However, just recently, it has found its way from third world country applications into the world of forensic science. Due to its portability and low cost, the fold scope can be used in the field to make on-the-spot determinations about forensic samples, including blood, hair, and soil. While the conclusions drawn with fold scope are only preliminary, they can aid law enforcement early on in an investigation and speed up the discovery process. Using a fold scope in the field can also lighten the load for forensic laboratories, which are often backlogged and can take significant time to deliver results. These are some of the thoughts which I have been able to gather from the literature. But then we have experts today, and I'm sure that with their deliberations, we will have better understanding about the subject by the end of this symposium. So once again, I welcome Professor G.D. Sharma, Professor Goria, and all other resource persons to Samvachyy 2023. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Your enlightened words would always enshrine in our minds. It's a matter of immense pleasure and pride for us to have a very legendary personality with us as chief guest. I am profusely elated to take an opportunity to introduce him. Professor G.D. Sharma is a leading educationist, eminent scholar, reputed life scientist, and well-known academic administrator of India. Professor Sharma is currently working as Vice Chancellor, University of Science and Technology, Meghalaya, and also the Vice President of Association of Indian Universities. He is a founder, Vice Chancellor of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, Bilaspur State University, Chhattisgarh. As a founder Vice Chancellor, he has made significant contribution in quality enhancements of higher education during his 2 terms of Vice Chancellor in the state of Chhattisgarh. Besides this, he has made successful endeavors to understand and help the people of central part of India, particularly STs, SCs, OBCs, and minorities. Dr. Sharma has also served as Vice Chancellor of Nagaland University and Pro-Vice Chancellor of Assam University. He was deputed by the Ministry of External Affairs to Rangoon University, Myanmar in 2005 for uplifting the higher education standard. He was also associated as president with non-governmental organization like Green of Silchar, which was awarded first prize in 2010-11 for its social contribution. Professor Sharma has guided 60 research scholars for their PhD degrees, 5 MPhil and 5 postdoctoral fellows. He has published over 362 research papers in national and international journal of repute. He has edited, authored 13 books published by Indian and foreign publishers. Professor Sharma has visited countries like USA, England, Canada, Japan, China, Malaysia, Myanmar, and Thailand for various academic activities and assignments. He has Fellow of Royal Society, London, UK, India under Exchange Program, Fellow of Indian Mycology Society, Fellow of Indian Botanical Society, Fellow of International Natural Resource and Environmental Society. He has received several awards. Dr. Narsim Medal Award by Indian Phytopathology Society in 1993, Rashtriya Ratna Award by International Study Center in 2003, Deed Award by Confederation of Indian University in 2004, S.K. Barua Memorial Lecturer at Calcutta University in 2009, CSIR Foundation Day Lecture at Northeast Institute of Science and Technology, Johor in 2009, Veerwal Sahni Award by Indian Botanical Society in 2010, Education Excellence Award by CCLP Worldwide in 2010, Vidya Ratna National Samman by All India Higher Research Sanskrit in 2015, Rai Bareli Outstanding Educational Contribution Award by CMAI New Delhi in 2015, Swami Vivekanand Excellence Award by International Institute of Oriental in 2019, and Indo-Asian Eminent Vice Chancellor Award in 2020. There is much more to tell about him, but we are eager to listen from him. So now I request Dr. Sharma to deliver that lecture. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, madam, for giving very detailed introduction. In fact, that was not required. But anyway, thank you so much. In this National Symposium on Emerging Issues and Innovative Forensic Practices for Sustainable Development, organized by Shri Vaishnav Institute of Forensic Science, Shri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya Indore. We have respected Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Upen Dharji, very good friend of ours, known for so many years, who is known world over, internationally known personality. We have number of speakers in this national seminars, like Professor Rakesh Kumar Goriaji from Patiala, Dr. Vimukhi Chauhanji from Chandigarh, Dr. Kapil Kumar from Gujarat University, Ahmedabad. Others speakers, Dr. Ashutosh Shuklaji, our one of the very good friend, Professor M.P. Gautamji, who was here with us in Guru Ghasidas University, Central University, and one of the experts having wider experience in the field of forensic science. He has worked in Central University of Sagar, then State University Directorate, so wider experience. Then we have very young, dynamic coordinator of this symposium, Mrs. Poonam Yadavji, who has been very active and very coordinating personality, that she was following up with different speakers, sending the program and all those details. So that shows that she is so sincere and very committed professor. Directors of the institute. At the outset, I thank Professor Dhar Saab to give me this opportunity to see this using technology, as he rightly said, because many times we are unable to meet physically, but technology, see each other and inquire about each other. And this is one of the most, we can say, way of communication, and that indicates that how fast we are going toward this. In fact, this communication has also played a very important role in social forensic science. So now this new branch of social forensic science is emerging, and people are making the analysis, statistical analysis and others. So as Professor Dhar rightly said, that initially when the branch of forensic science started in our country, very few universities, they were having this kind of the facility, because the purpose of this branch was to provide support, authentic support, which can be confirmed and which can be evaluated for doing the justice, so that justice is done properly and rightly. That was the purpose of forensic science, which came much later to our country, which was used earlier in foreign countries. And because of our traditional laws, traditional value systems were so strong that whatever people will say, then it was considered as proof, and the decision or judgment was given based on that. But since the degradation of moral values, as well as not having the proof, many times the justice could not be given in a right way. So initially, what we have seen, that chemistry has played very important role, because chemistry is a branch where we do the analysis and show to people. I remember that in graduation and class 10, 12, we were asked to identify the elements in a given mixture. So in mixture, we do not know, we cannot see so many properties, but ultimately using these proper methods, we can say this is this particular element, lead or magnesium or whatever is there. And then everybody, when we say magnesium, anybody can test, yes, it is magnesium. So authentic analysis was important. So chemistry started playing very important role initially at determination and providing the proof for coming to the proper justice to the court and other things. As the chemistry grew, particularly the analytical part of the chemistry grew, the analytical methods, particularly using different chromatographic methods, paper, TLC, or this your other chromatographic method. So this was used. Ultimately, purpose was to also find the minute amount of anything which is required to be provided as a proof. And therefore, this now we call it traditional way of determination of forensic crime. The purpose of forensic science is to provide the authentic, analytical, repeatable data and now environmental sustainability, which are not causing any harm to environment. Because some of the earlier methods were causing environment. Now, as we know that chemistry has evolved now, green chemistry, and we are not using those many earlier methods in chemistry also. So now our emphasis is to make use of those methods which are more environment friendly, or we can say environmentally sustainable, so that the amount of the chemicals or the methods which are used are not causing any harm to the environment. While we are helping the proper justice, this should not create an alternative problem. So those, as I said, that the chromatography or spectroscopy, IR and MS, GCMS, all those things as evolved in analytical gas chromatography or liquid chromatography, HPLC, all those things developed simultaneously. And then the small things like hair sample or the any fiber, those analysis, so small samples also could be analyzed. And in this way, similarly, after the discovery of molecular techniques, the DNA was made as the basis for providing strong analytical proof for the forensic science. There are many examples of this, particularly after the Rajiv Gandhi's death, because body parts were distributed all over. Then how to bring together which are the parts of real person. So this DNA sequencing helped, because each person is having separate gene arrangement, and therefore it can be done. Now it is also quite popularly used, because now it has, this technique has been brought to the very simple analytical way in hospitals where children are exchanged. So very difficult to determine the parents physically. So chemically also how to do, So molecular, biological or DNA sequencing is taking very small sample, which may not be destructive way of sampling, is very useful. And in this way, we find that forensic science, because I remember earlier, initially, our legal system did not give much importance to this DNA sequencing and all this. But after the discovery and proper this barcoding, DNA barcoding, each individual is having specific DNA barcoding, has become now acceptable throughout the world, and in India also this technique is being used. After this, as Professor Dhar said, that more advancement took place in this also, because the problem in those traditional methodology or techniques was sometimes the data or what analytical thing comes, for coming to the conclusion, the material was not sufficient, or it was destroyed, mixed. So fingerprinting, which is very important because each individual is having very specific fingerprinting, but when it is analyzed and seen, it is not clear many times. So as Professor Dhar said, that then carbon dot this process is taken where fingerprinting are made very clear using this dusting and using the UV fluorescence, so that the different colors comes, and that is why. So slowly what we find that because the progress is taking place, the society is progressing, developing, and there is a competition. So crimes also simultaneously increasing. Those who commit crime, they also learn many new innovative things which cannot be detected by the old or traditional methodology. That is important. So it is important that simultaneously there has to be a green technology, a technology which can determine minutely. So now new methods like not only the chemistry, along with chemistry, the physical means of using computerized based technology, as Professor Dhar said, artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, all these have been made part of this, as well as now a new branch of microbiology has entered. Because what happens after post-mortem things, the change taking place in the microbial flora can give a better picture what kind of the interaction has taken place. Then microbial biome, because after 2011, when the first microbial biome paper appeared in Nature, lot of now work is going on different parts of microbiome, on skin, on our this sexual part, like the men and this woman's vaginal microbial biome and all. Particularly in sexual this crimes, if we use the traditional method and suppose there is no traces of this any semen, so DNA analysis becomes very difficult. So here now they are using microbial biome, because the microbes are very specific. When the skin come in contact, then they get transferred and they get established. And so analysis of this part, skin coming contact, even environmental microbiology. A person living in particular environment, their microbial flora or that biodiversity of microbes with others. So that also can be analyzed where from the person has moved over the company of the person. So these branches are coming up, which are very environment friendly and also gives conclusion to drive the conclusion that what are those environmental conditions and the motivation of those conditions to commit the crime. Ultimately, finding, justifying, analyzing crime is one part, but ultimately how the person tend to commit the crime is equally important. So these techniques now are very helpful. As Professor said that earlier DNA sequencing, but now interacting proteome, how the protein is formed. So this 16S RNA analysis help to understand that how this protein, because all this may not match. So immunological techniques also very interactive techniques. So that means not only structural part, but also the functional part. How the after death, the change in microbial flora takes place also depends on the constituent of the body. And therefore, the sequence of the microbial colonization will be different. So post-mortem decomposition of body is again a new techniques to find out. And also, so now because of evolution of crimes, commitment in a more scientific manner, like air movement of the crime. We see so many news nowadays that this your what you call that Pakistan is sending drone to drop the arms or drugs or like that. So this air movement also helps. What is the origin of this drone? Which country? Or what is the origin of that material? So analysis of this new composition or air microbes. So these are the new techniques which are coming up, which are helpful. And these are very environment friendly. And so this helps in geolocating of the victim using analytical as well as using stable isotopes, particularly H3 and other things, where from the person has moved. So what we find now that because of the enormous growth in forensic science, it has created the lot of scope of the forensic science. And therefore, this is one of the reasons that in each state now, there is a need of a person having background of forensic science. Earlier, that was not required. So in India also, in foreign country, not only 11%, in India, it will be more required of the personals, both as technician as well as interpreter. Most important is that how they interpret the analytical data. So both are important. So what we find that using this DNA phenotyping, DNA materializing and machinery, how to use it, how to interpret, and how to bring out the fingerprinting of the criminal, the analysis of bodily fluid, as well as the material is important. And therefore, to not only detect the fluid, but also some of those smallest amount of either soil or this material like the coming in contact of the virus or like that is also helpful in dissemination and also showing the movement. What we see that some of these air things recently USA has said that the China plane was a plane enter into their area and they were collecting some information. So because they could see this, hello, एक उस गुड मॉर्निंग है उसमें एक मिनट में आपको ठीक ठीक से कॉल करते बाद में. So what we find now that forensic science has created a new generation of innovative and also combining various branches in it to create more specialized persons to provide authentic information to come to the conclusion, but only thing awareness and also using these techniques, creating such infrastructure is equally important. Analyzing 3D analytical approach, other technologies which are available now, making kits, and then if the dead body is put somewhere through analysis of that soil samples, all those small evidences can now be supported by using these techniques, which have become emerged more environmental friendly, and I am sure that much more in detail will be discussed by the experts in this national symposium. So thank you very much to give me this opportunity and to share some of my views and also see each other. So thank you very much, Darsab, and to all the persons.
Thank you so much, sir, for enriching us about the application of microbial forensics, role of immunological techniques for personal identification, and other innovative environmental friendly analytical techniques. Once again, thank you so much, sir. Gratitude makes sense of our past, brings peace for today, and create a vision for tomorrow. I invite Mrs. Poonam Yadav, Coordinator Samvachyy, to propose words of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning to all of you. I, Poonam Yadav, Coordinator of National Symposium 2023, feel privileged to express my sincere gratitude to all of you who have gathered on this virtual platform. First and foremost, I express my gratitude to our chief guest, Professor G.D. Sharma, Honorable Vice Chancellor, University of Science and Technology, Meghalaya, and Vice President, Association of Indian Universities, for taking time out of his busy schedule to impress us with intellectual words. Thanks are also due to Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Dr. Upender Dhar, who always motivate and inspire us, and for his valuable inaugural speech, sir. Thank you very much for your kind words. I would like to thank all of the speakers who have graciously agreed to share their words of wisdom. Dr. Rakesh Goria, Professor and Head, Gyan Sagar Medical College, Patiala, Punjab. Dr. Vimukti Chauhan, Assistant Director, Forensic Toxicology Division, Central Forensic Science Laboratory, Chandigarh. And Dr. Kapil Kumar, Associate Professor, Department of Biochemistry and Coordinator, Forensic Science, Gujarat University, Ahmedabad. Sincere thanks are also due to Dr. Santosh Dhar, Rector and Dean, FDSR, for her precious presence. Additionally, thanks are due to Dr. K.N. Guru Prasad, Dean Science, including Forensic Science, Agriculture, and Director of Sri Vaishnav Institute of Science, and to Dr. M.P. Gautam, Senior Professor, Sri Vaishnav Institute of Forensic Science, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, who are the chairperson of today's plenary session. Lastly but not the least, I would like to thank Dr. Ashutosh Shukla, Coordinator, Sri Vaishnav Institute of Forensic Science and Convener, Samvachyy 2023, and all the directors of Constituent Institute of Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, HODs, HOIs, and faculty colleagues, and all the participants. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Poonam Madam. Now we are moving towards the end of inaugural session. I request everyone to please rise for national anthem.
भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगल दायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Thank you, sir. Now, participants are requested to remain connected. We are directly start the plenary session. For this, I am handing over the session to Mrs. Nandini Bansod, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. A very good afternoon to all the dignitaries, guests, colleagues, and all the attendees present here. On behalf of Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, I, Nandini Bansod, feel privileged to welcome you all to the first plenary session of Samvachyy 2023, a one-day national symposium on emerging issues and innovative forensic practices for sustainable development. In this session, we have two speakers, and the session is being chaired by Dr. K.N. Guru Prasad, Dean Sciences and Director, Sri Vaishnav Institute of Science, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore. Now I request Dr. Ashutosh Shukla, Convener of Samvachyy and Coordinator of Sri Vaishnav Institute of Forensic Science, for welcoming our chairperson of this plenary session virtually. Thank you, sir. Before this session begins, it's my pleasure to introduce our session chair to this gathering, Dr. K.N. Guru Prasad, Dean Sciences and Director, Sri Vaishnav Institute of Forensic Science. Dr. K.N. Guru Prasad, Professor and Director, having more than 35 years of teaching experience. He is MSc in Life Science and Industrial Microbiology, PhD in Plant Physiology. He was a former head in Department of Life Science, Devi Ahilya Vishwavidyalaya, Indore. He has presented more than 50 papers in various national and international conferences. He was the principal investigator of various projects funded by UGC, CSIR, DST, BRNS, MPCST, ICAR, NFBSR, and BASF. He was a visiting scientist in Biology Department, Kobe University, Kobe, Japan, and Biophysics Department, Moscow University, Moscow, Russia. Thank you, sir. In this row, now I am requesting Dr. K.N. Guru Prasad, sir, chairperson of the session, to welcome our first speaker of this session, Dr. Rakesh Kumar Goria, Professor and Head, Gyan Sagar Medical College, Patiala, Punjab. Thank you, sir. In this row, now I am delighted to introduce to this gathering our first speaker for today's session, Dr. Rakesh Kumar Goria. Dr. Rakesh Kumar Goria is a professor and head forensic medicine, Gyan Sagar Medical College, Punjab, faculty member of National Forensic Science University, Gandhinagar, professor emeritus at SJGT University, Rajasthan, adjunct professor, Eternal University, and formerly faculty member at Forensic Medicine Department, College of Medicine, Prince Sattam bin Abdul Aziz University, Saudi Arabia, and former principal and professor at NC Medical College, Panipat, and Rama Medical College, Hospital and Research Center, Kanpur, India. He is a BSc, MD, and PhD, and diplomats of National Board. He was a faculty member of Forensic and Legal Medicine of Royal College of Physicians, London. He is a fellow of the Indian Academy of Forensic Medicine, International Medical Science Academy, and Indian Congress of Forensic Medicine and Toxicology. He has completed the Quality Management System Lead Auditor course in standards from Moody International, UK. He is the president of Indo-Pacific Academy of Forensic Nursing Science, Indo-Pacific Academy of Forensic Odontology, Society for Prevention of Injuries and Corporal Punishment, and past president of Indian Academy of Forensic Medicine and Punjab Academy of Forensic Medicine and Toxicology. He was a former editor-in-chief in the Journal of Indian Academy of Forensic Medicine and Medicine and Journal of Punjab Academy of Forensic Medicine and Toxicology. Besides being officer bearer of many other organizations, currently he is the editor-in-chief of the International Journal of Ethics, Trauma and Victimology and editor of Global Journal of Nursing and Forensic Science. He is a member of Advisory Committee of Journal of Medico-Legal Updates, International Journal of Forensic Nursing, and Journal of Injury and Violence Research, and Forensic Science Journal of Turkey. He has presented 154 papers at national and international forum with 145 research publications. He has authored 2 books, Practical Aspects of Forensic Medicine and Forensic Nursing Sciences, a global health initiative for developing and developed countries, and has authored 6 chapters for different books. He has 35 years of teaching experience. He has guided many MD and PhD scholars. He has 2 national and 2 international awards to his credit and delivered 40 keynote and guest lectures. He was given a special award by the Indian Academy of Forensic Medicine for his efforts to develop forensic nursing in India, a Vision Award by International Association of Forensic Nurse at Salt Lake City, USA, Excellence Award by SAFCON, and Lifetime Achievement Award by IGHRLMP and PAFMAT. His academic areas of special interest are forensic nursing, forensic odontology, prevention of crime against children, and training of medical teachers. With this word, now I request sir to please address this gathering. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Nandini, for very elaborate introduction. First of all, I will like to convey my gratitude to the organizers, Dr. Upinder Dar, Dr. Ashutosh Shukla, Dr. Poonam Yadav, Dr. Swati Dubey Mishra, and other persons, especially the chief guest, Professor G.D. Sharma, if he's around here. My greetings to all of you. And I will pay my regards to my chairperson, Dr. Guru Prasad, and the other persons to follow. My greetings to all of you, to all the delegates, that we will have a fruitful discussion on a very interesting topic of forensic odontology. I would like to get the permission to share my screen.
Yes, sir. Please.
So, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir. It's visible.
You are getting my voice?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So today we will be talking about the forensic odontology and the various things which are concerned with it. And we will also take the history of forensic odontology and where the forensic odontology can be useful. So today we will discuss that what is forensic odontology first of all, and what is the history of the forensic odontology, and what is the scope of the forensic odontology in the living as well as in the dead, and what is the global scenario of forensic odontology, and what is the future of forensic odontology in India and around the world. And we will talk about some of the latest things in the forensic odontology at the end. So what is forensic odontology? So if we go by the dictionary meaning, it is a branch of forensic medicine dealing with teeth and marks left by teeth. And it is also known as the application of dentistry to the legal problems, and also defined as the branch of dentistry that in the interest of justice deals with the proper handling and examination of dental evidence and the proper evaluation and presentation of the dental findings. It is also known as legal dentistry, and legal dentistry is the law that is applicable to the practice of the dentistry. So if we see broadly, forensic odontology or forensic dentistry, it is the application of knowledge of dentistry for the solution of both civil and criminal cases, which involves collection, analysis, evaluation, interpretation, and scientific presentation of the dental evidence in the investigative and judicial system of a country so that there can be successful prosecution of the offenders. If we see how the forensic odontology started, if we go to origin of the Bible, so they said that there was probably the first case of dentistry in the gardens of Eden, when Adam and Eve were thrown out from there for biting the forbidden apple and leaving their teeth bite marks on the apple. So the God must have been judiciously used this evidence, and that is why they were thrown out of that apple using that bite mark evidence. So we have the evidence of the study of teeth in the pyramids of Egypt. It is about 3,000 years BC when you can see the golden wires that were used in the that were seen in the mummies. And then in the year 49 AD, the head of the Loliopolin was identified by Julia Agrippa, the wife of Emperor Claudius, by the unique teeth pattern of the deceased. She wanted to confirm that the king whom he loved, she was killed in a proper way and exactly is killed. So that is the justice by the wife. And in 1193, Raja Jayachand of Kannauj got killed in the war with Muhammad and was identified by his false teeth. First case was reported from the Battle of Castellon, in which the Lord Talbot was killed by a war axe assault on the head, and later on identified by a missing tooth by his army men. So there are so many incidences in the war. So in the year 1477, Charles the Bold, Duke of Burgundy, was killed in the War of Nancy and was identified by his missing teeth. So forensic odontology is not new. So again, the Pater Halkett, who was killed in the Battle of Philadelphia and was buried there. Later on, his skeleton was identified by his son, being the artificial tooth of his father. And there is a famous case, O.J. Simpson trial case, and it is also known as Parkman-Webster case, and it happened in 1849 when the person was dismembered and burned after murder and was identified by the teeth. And then Oscar Amedio is repeated as the father of the forensic dentistry. Why he's known as the father of forensic dentistry? Because he identified the victims of fire accident from the study of the teeth. And similarly, Hitler was identified, and the Eva Braun Hitler, his wife, so she was identified from the Golden Bridge from the Lodja. And so with the passage of time, more and more cases were coming, and in 1979, 200 people were identified using dental evidence in American airline DC-10 crash. And then in the Alaska airline flight, in which 22 victims are identified using dental evidence. So again, the Pakistan president was identified from the dental evidence. Rajiv Gandhi, again, when his body was totally disrupted from the dental evidence and from the DNA evidence, was identified. DNA is best taken from the teeth in those circumstances. In the present century, we had the tsunami, and many tsunami victims were identified from their dental evidence. And in Nepal earthquake, and so many people died. And again, the dental evidence came in to help for the identification. And now we can see that we know the history that yes, this has been very useful, and there are so many advances in the forensic odontology, and gradually becoming popular. Now it is even in the BDS, a module is there which will be taught to the students regarding the forensic odontology, and this can be helpful both in the living as well as in the dead. In the living, how forensic odontology can be helpful? It can be helpful when there is a case of dental trauma, and the case is to be presented to the court, and a person's age is not known and our age is under suspicion. Then the age can be determined from the teeth, and there are bite marks. So bite marks are taken a beat, but still it is useful in certain circumstances. And antemortem record keeping is, if it is there, then that helps a lot in the identification when there is particularly there are mass disasters. And first of all, we will see that in the case of dental trauma, how the things can be helpful. So dental trauma can be in cases of assaults on the face, and it can also be there in cases of accidents. And so in all such cases, medical legal report has to be prepared. And fracture and dislocation of tooth is a grievous injury for which there is a lot of punishment. And we need to rule out that this is not due to disease, this is due to injury only. And we have to examine for this. And whenever it is due to assault, usually there are, in addition to the dislocation of tooth or fracture of the tooth, there are associated injuries in the other mouth parts and other. Then these are due to the trauma. And but because sometimes there can be fabricated injuries, you can see in this case that the tooth are lying loose because of the disease process. The tooth are already loose, they were taken out, but you see that there is no associated trauma in this case. So we should be careful to correlate the fracture in the teeth or dislocation of the teeth along with the trauma present in the mouth and the adjoining areas. And age determination, how this can be done? Age determination can be done by eruption of teeth. So this eruption of teeth, it can be in children. They come from 6 months to 30 months, all the 20 teeth. So they are erupting, and then eruption of the permanent teeth. So it starts from with the first molar 6 to 7 years, and in the last molar comes from the 7 to 21 years. Third molar comes at that age, and ultimately the 32 teeth they have erupted. And we can also see the calcification of root. It takes a little more time than eruption. So in case of temporary teeth, so up to 3 years, And in case of permanent teeth, up to 18 to 25 years, all the roots of the teeth, they get calcified. And we can find out what is the age. So after this age, then there are some physiological changes in the teeth occurring. And there is a Gustafsson method, which is there, and by which we can find out the age. And then there are radiological methods as well as the biochemical methods by which we can find out the age of the person. So this is the eruption of the teeth. You can see different age groups. So which teeth has erupted, which has not erupted, depending upon that, we can find out the age of the person. And we can also use the Boyd's method when we can see the incremental lines on the histological section of teeth. There are usually daily growth lines. There is a neonatal line at birth, and how many lines after birth. So in days, so we can find out the age of the baby by this method. And by Gustafsson method, there are 6 changes. It is attrition, periodontosis, secondary dentin formation, cementum apposition, root resorption, and root transparency. So these are the 6 changes which we can study. Some of them can be studied in the living, some of them can be studied in the, all of them can be studied in the dead body. And so they are helpful in the age after 25 to 60 years. So before 25, it is the eruption of the teeth and the calcification of the roots. After this, it is the Gustafsson method. So this has some limitations, and then there are some modifications of this method has taken place, and they are the Daltis, Bang, Aram, Johansson, Maples, and Solim. So there are some modification in the different parameters which are being used, and their accuracy is a little bit better than the first method. And if we see the radiological method, there is a Kowal et al. Method where the size of the dental pulp cavity is used. Camry et al. Where pulp and tooth area ratio is used. Icadia where the corner pulp cavity index is used. Harris and Notts' third molar 5 stages development are used. Young et al. By cone beam CT we are using, and Spalding et al. Amount of radiocarbon in the tooth enamel that is used to find out the age of the person. And then there are different softwares, dental age estimation software, so which further help in the estimation of the age. And then there are biochemical methods also, that the L-aspartic acid undergoes decimation to be stored as D-aspartic acid in increasing amounts during aging, and it occurs in enamel, dentin, and cementum, and it increases linearity with the aging. So we can find out by the levels of the D-aspartic acid what is the age. So then there is another important evidence on the body sometime which comes for evaluation, and these are the bite marks. Bite marks are the physical alteration or representative pattern recorded in a medium caused by the contact of the teeth of a human or animal. And the basic principle behind this is that bite marks of one person never matches with the bite marks of another person, but this should be done scientifically. And if we see some features, usually it is a circular or elliptical injury which has marks depicting characteristics of teeth, and it has diameter of 25 to 40 millimeter, and incisors produce rectangular injuries, and canines produce triangular injuries, because usually these are the front teeth which are producing the injuries in case of bite marks, and mostly these are the incisors and canines which are producing these injuries. Sometimes this is the first premolar also get involved in it. So where we come across the bite marks. So if we can come across the bite marks in case of homicides where one person is killed by another. It is also seen in sexual assault cases. It can be seen both in heterosexual assault cases as well as the homosexual assault cases. And it is also seen in cases of child abuse cases. And in addition to this, in the physical assaults, of course, one assailant may put the bite marks on another, or a person while defending himself may put the marks on the other person who is offending him. So what are the areas where usually we see the bite marks? In Quetzal fights, usually we see on the cheeks, a nose, upper extremities, and in case of sexual crimes, usually face, neck, breast, abdomen, and inner side of thighs and genitalia. And in cases of sodomy, it is usually on the backs and buttocks. So depending upon the crime, nature of the crime, so it can be present on the different parts of the body. So you can see this case, this was a case of a girl who was sexually assaulted, and you can say she was killed. You can see some marks on the neck, and you can see the marks on the face also, where there is a bite mark is present. You can see another case of the bite marks where you see the teeth pattern, and there is a ABFO scale. So this should be always photographed with ABFO scale, and so that we can find out about the distortions. And how we classify the bite marks. So it can be etiological classification, whether how this is occurring. It can occur by the pressure marks of the teeth, by of the incisal edge of the interior teeth, and it can be tongue pressure marks, and it can be tooth scrape marks due to irregularities in teeth. If there are fractures, restorations, or attrition, and then that can give the scrape marks. And there can be complex mark combination of the pressure marks of teeth and tongue, as well as the scrape marks from the teeth. So depending upon how much force is being used, these teeth can cause abrasion on the skin. This can cause bruises on the skin. This can cause bleeding in the underlying skin. This can cause the tearing of the tissue. This can cause a cut on the tissue. This can be, the tissue can be taken away, and sometimes there can be artifacts due to some like bottle lids. They have sometimes the glass bottle lids. They have the then they have the some marks, created marks. So if that is pressed against the skin, sometimes they can resemble and there can be artifacts. But we need to differentiate all this, and we need to differentiate even from the animal bite marks, because the animals, they can also produce the bite marks, and we need to differentiate. Once we study these bite marks, probably you are very clear that these are the human bite marks. And what the forensic odontologist has to do, he has to collect this evidence, he has to preserve this evidence, he has to evaluate, interpret the bite marks, he has to compare and analyze, and then give the opinion that what his opinion is about these bite marks. So usually these bite marks can be identified by the class characteristics and by the individual characteristics. Some animals, if you see animal and human bite marks, they have the class characteristics. So if you see individual, so the dimensions of the R can be different. The pattern of the dental characteristics, that can be different. There's dimension, their size, their rotation. So so many things are there which produce individual bite marks. And so you should remember that when bite marks are being produced, there can be distortion, because skin can be taken away during the process of biting, and distortion can be after biting, because it can be on the circular surface or irregular surfaces. The skin has elasticity, and all those can produce the distortion, and these distortions had to be corrected when we can finally, before we can make the comparisons. And ultimately, how the opinion is given in case of bite marks. After the study of all the evidence, I am of the opinion that bite mark studies suggest that A excluded as having made the bite mark, not excluded as having made the bite mark. So that is the latest one. And are the evidence is inconclusive, because it's not good and we cannot give any opinion regarding this. And then antemortem dental record keeping is very, very important, because if this will be there, only then it can be compared with like in the mass disasters and other things. So antemortem record keeping should be very good. It can be in the form of the dental notes. It can be in the form of dental charts. It can be in the form of radiograms. it can be in the form of photographs, it can be in the form of models, or it can be computer generated records. So all these are the dental records, and these dental records must be meticulously kept whenever they go for any person goes for the dental treatment, because this can help a lot later on in case identification is needed of that person. So there are different types of the charts. You can use any type of the charts, but using one type of the charts in a country or throughout the world, that will be probably much better, because it will be very easy to compare, because the accident may happen in some different country of the aircraft and the records are in a different country. If they are kept in a uniform form, then these will be more useful. And these dental photographs, so sometimes these are the where while treating the photographs are taken, and even in now in the selfies, the frontal teeth are exposed, so then from them it can help in later on identification. So the models, so usually for the dental treatment, these models are prepared, and then these can be of helpful later on for the identification. So radiograms are there, so you see each in all these radiographs, so different patterns are there. So these patterns can be compared with the postmortem data, and that can help in the absolute identification of the person when no other evidence is coming forward. So in case of dead body, so there are injuries. So these injuries have to be recorded in the postmortem report, and so there is a disaster victim identification. Sometimes so many persons die in a particular situation, and then in those cases, identification has to be established. So these teeth are very, very useful in those circumstances. These antemortem records, they are the dental records and the different forms of the dental records. So they can help in the identification process in that time. So in this, so we can find out the age from the teeth, we can find out the gender from the teeth, we can find out the race of the community of the dead person. In that case, we can also tell about something about the socioeconomic status of the deceased person. In addition to the teeth, the forensic odontologist can also be a valuable person to tell about the cheloscopy, rugoscopy, denture identification, tongue prints, identification from DNA analysis, and the facial reconstruction. So these are other things which the forensic odontology gets involved. So if there is a postmortem examination or there are dental injuries, then the dental autopsy has to be done. So dental autopsy can be very useful in certain situations, especially in case of fractures and dislocation of the teeth. So this has to be recorded, and there can be other intraoral injuries in addition to the fractures and dislocation of the teeth. So sometimes the person who wants to commit suicide, then especially in the case of firearm injury, they put the barrel in the mouth and shot and kill themselves. So in those circumstances, forensic odontologist services are required to document all this correctly, and then in those cases the buccal autopsy that is needed to be done, and it should be done carefully. And the forensic pathologist, if they invite the forensic odontologist, probably more useful evidence in such circumstances will come forward. So you can see the injuries inside the mouth that can occur, and you can find the injuries. So you can tell from the bullet has entered, from where the bullet has gone. So this is the exit move of the bullet. You can see on the skull on the right side. And it helps, especially in burned dead bodies, in mutilated dead bodies, in dismembered dead bodies, in skeletonized dead bodies, and in decomposed dead bodies. So the teeth are particularly helpful in this situation when sometimes the identification may not be possible from the other sources. And so what is to be done? So we have to compare antemortem and postmortem findings and then match them and do the positive identification. And age determination, as we talked about age determination in the living, it is the same, but it can be from the tooth eruption and from the calcification of the roots of the teeth, as we have seen, and from the Gustafsson method. In the dead, all the 6 parameters of the Gustafsson method, and then the various modified methods of the Gustafsson that can be used. And we can also study the sutures of the skull, because the different sutures of the skull, they are uniting at different ages. So from that, the age of the person can also be found. So in the Gustafsson method, usually the section is made of the canine, and then histologically, all the 6 parameters, they are studied in this case. And you can see the different sutures of the skull. So there's some of them unite at different ages, and some unite earlier, some unite later. So from those union, so closure of the sutures of the skull, we can find out the age after 30 years. So sometimes the sutures are visible, and sometimes the sutures are obliterated. You can see on the right side, the sutures are obliterated. On the left side, you can see the sutures are still visible. So gender can also be determined by the anthropometric measurement, difference in the skull and mandible. It gives a 90% accuracy. So we can also study the bar bodies and the Y chromosomes, and we can also study the DNA. Sex can be determined even from the degraded DNA samples, and sex can be determined even from a very, very small amount of the material up to small, that 20 picograms. And you can see the from the study of the male and female and male skull, you can see that muscular markings are more prominent in the case of male, whereas in the case of females, the muscular markings are less prominent. And the forehead is slanting in case of male, whereas in case of females, it is vertical. So, and the mastoid process larger. So their margins, they are well marked. The supraorbital ridges are very well marked in case of males. So these are comparative. And once you are seen and studied so many samples, then gradually the things becoming clear to you. So sex determination can also be done by the Y bodies and the X bodies. So you can see the Y chromosome on the left side and X on the right side. So the Y chromosome, that is fluorescent, and you can see on the right side the bar body present in the cells. And so you can see the bar bodies again on the left side, and Y chromosome fluorescent on the right side. And by the study of this, you can tell about the gender of from these findings. So in addition to the age and the gender, the race can also be determined. So cephalic index, height index, nasal index, and shape of the following orbits, nasal opening, and palates. From this, the race can be determined. So cephalic index is maximum transverse breadth of the skull over maximum anterior posterior length multiplied by 100. So this can be in this cephalic index can be dolichocephalic, mesotic cephalic, and brachycephalic. And depending upon this, the race can be determined whether in Aryan blacks and Aborigines, it will be dolichocephalic. Europeans and Chinese, it is mesotic cephalic, and in the Mongolian race, it is brachycephalic. And height index, maximum height of the skull, maximum anterior posterior length of the skull multiplied by 100. And similarly, the nasal index, width of the nasal aperture and height of the nasal aperture. So in this, you can compare. In the blacks, the cephalic index is 70, height index is 72, and nasal index is 55. Whereas in Europeans, CI is 80 to 84, HI is 71, NI is 46, and in Mongols, CI is 85, HI is 75, NI is 50. And if we see the shapes of orbits, nasal opening, and palate, they are also different. In the blacks, the orbits are square, nasal opening broad, palate rectangular, whereas in a European's orbit is slightly triangular and nasal opening narrow elongated and palate triangular. In Mongols, orbits and nasal openings, they are round, palate is also round or horseshoe shaped. So the race of the person can be determined. There are some differences in the mandible. Blacks have the prognathic mandible, star-shaped occlusive surface of molars, third molar bigger than the other two molars. Mongols, upper incisors, shovel shape. Socioeconomic status can also be determined because the rich persons, they are previously they used to have the gold fillings, and now even the costly materials are there. So the material used for bridges and crowns, so depending upon how much costly it is, so the socioeconomic status of the person can be given. And the cost of the dental treatment. The costly dental treatments are in the case of rich, and the rich persons usually are brushing more times a day, so their oral hygiene is good, whereas poor people, they are brushing their teeth less, and so their poor hygiene is, they have usually poor hygiene, and so poor oral health indicates the poor socioeconomic status, and the good oral health means good socioeconomic status of the person. In addition to this, we can study the kiloscopy. So the antemortem lip prints are useful to be compared with the prints taken from the lips of the dead person. So the antemortem lip print may be present and the person is dead, person is identified. So when no other thing is present, so these prints can help will be in identification. And these prints are better and more useful taken within 24 hours of death. And lip prints of the closed mouth are better than the open mouth prints. So you can see the different types of so they are from type 1 to type 5. Type 1, clear-cut vertical line or groove running across the lip. And type 1 dash, that is the clear-cut vertical line or groove running half across the lip. Type 2, forked grooves. Type 3, intersected grooves. Type 4, reticular grooves. And type 5, undifferentiated grooves. So these are the different patterns. So when we compare the antemortem lip print with the postmortem lip print, so then this can be of help in identification. So you can see the different types of the lip prints: reticular pattern, vertical pattern, intersected pattern, branched pattern, and partial vertical pattern. So you can see. So then palatal rugoscopy. So you can see the pattern on the palate. So these are also different in persons, and this can also help in the identification. And when other dental evidence may not be useful, study of palatal rugae can be of immense help in certain situations, as these remains preserved and may not be altered in burn and injury. So this has the advantage that in case of burns and injuries, this is well protected and nothing may happen to this. And so this can be compared with the study with computer softwares too. So this can be straight, these can be curved, these can be at an angle, these can be wavy, these can be circular, these can be diverging, these can be converging, these can be branching with diverging, and this can be branching with convergence. So these are the different types of the palate prints. So you will see the rugaes will be present in different formats, and sometimes these can be non-specific too. So you can see the diverging and converging type of the pattern of the rugae. So you never know which part of the body you are getting and in what condition. So depending upon whatever is available, we have to identify the person from that, and we should be able to utilize all the different things which can help us in the identification of the person. And sometimes we see the dentures, artificial made dentures. There may be complete dentures, there may be partial dentures, which can also help in identification. So you can see the different types of the So there are the barcodes are present. There are some details are mentioned, and even at the bottom on the right side, the person has got his imprinted his photograph. So everything will be destroyed. So this will, person thinks that this will be there, which will help in the identification. So there are different things, different now, like SIM card sync, they are being entered, putting in small things. So which will ultimately help in the identification from these the dentures. And in addition to this, sometimes tongue prints that can also be used. So again, like fingerprints, they say the persons are unique, tongue prints also. And so if we see the texture of these tongue prints, this can be smooth, fissured or cracked. If we can see the location of the fissure, it can be vertical, horizontal, center, multiple vertical, or center vertical. And if we see the symmetry, length, width, and thickness can be different. And if we see the shape of the tongue, it can be round, triangular, square, acute triangular, obtuse triangular, hammer shape, and elliptical shape. So you can see the different types of the tongue. So you can see there is a no fissure on the first, single fissure. There can be multiple fissures. And you can say U-shaped tongue. You can say V-shaped tongue. And in the middle, in the above, you can see the biped tongue. So all the persons have tongue patterns which are different, which are unique, and sometimes this may help us to identify the persons. And so tongue prints can be helpful in different situations. So then the most important one is the DNA fingerprinting or profiling, which is the craze of the day and which is very, very useful, but these are very expensive so far, and it takes a lot of time. So many cases are pending. So whatever thing which can be helpful, we should utilize that. And sometimes even the simple things like fingerprints, they can help. So then there is no need for going for the costly things, because ultimately it is the money involved, and ultimately how much money is with your department or with any department who's investigating, so that matters. So, and whatever material is coming, sometimes DNA may be possible from that, sometimes DNA may not be possible from that. But if DNA can be, sampling can be taken for the DNA, that must be taken. And tooth pulp is the best to have the sample for DNA analysis, because this remains well preserved in the teeth. And when other tissues are not available, teeth is available, like the body is burnt. So teeth are well protected in those cases, so many injuries. And then the teeth remain preserved, the body is drowned, so many, the soft tissue gone, but still the teeth are there. So it can provide the material for the DNA. And DNA profiling can be done from it and compared with the blood relatives or some previous DNA profiling. So sometimes we can identify by the superimposition photography. So in this, what we do, life-size photograph of the person is superimposed on the life-size photograph of the skull to see if it belongs to the same person or not. And angle of the photogram should be same in which we are keeping the skull. And the new methodologies and protocols of forensic identification by craniofacial superimposition is MAPROCOS, and it should be used and taking care and taking precautions. In this, we should see the interpupillary distance, and for the superimposition, it should be correct. And usually CCTV is used to find out the exact angles of the photographs, and thickness of soft tissue should be taken into consideration while using this technique. Video superimposition is better than the photographic superimposition and gives better results. And computer-assisted superimposition is now commonly used, as it gives the best results among these three methods. And facial reconstruction, when the photographs are not available, but only the skull is available, so we can do the facial reconstruction. It can be done by the forensic sculptors, it can be done by the forensic odontologist, can be done by the computer programs. There are different softwares are present. So for the soft tissue thickness, first tissues are there, and ultimately it is studied in each area, in each community, and we find out the soft tissue thickness. So for this, the research is needed in your areas, and this can be done. Ultimately, this can help in the identification. That is how from the skull, the soft tissue like things they are put, and ultimately it is an art and science both. So for this, a person needs to be good artist, and but now the computerized things are also coming, and that is going to help a lot. And the very important thing is the disaster victim identification. So in disaster victim identification, when so many persons have died, like in aeroplane accidents, like fire in a building, fire in a train, or so many persons are there who are unidentified, and then in these teams are required forensic pathologists and the medical examiners. So they remain at the head, and then the forensic odontologist, radiologist, forensic anthropologist, fingerprint experts, forensic DNA analysts, physical evidence recovery experts, and forensic nurses. So you can see in this, all those persons who can help in the identification in any way, all those persons should be in the team, and then the best results will be obtained. And according to the Interpol, there should be examination of the scene, and postmortem data should be collected. Fingerprints, forensic odontology, DNA profiling, and physical indicators, they must be recorded. And then antemortem data is collected, and then that is compared with that and reconciled antemortem and postmortem data, that whether identification is possible or not. So there are yellow and pink forms. So pink form is for the postmortem examination, and the yellow form. So these are the forms, so that uniform entry of the things is there, it becomes easy. And forensic odontology team, in this there will use team leader, and then there is a postmortem team which functions to record all possible dental findings at the incident, and then there is a antemortem team functions to try and access all possible dental records of proposed victims at the incident for comparison and interpretation of the findings. And then there is a comparison team which will compare the postmortem data with the antemortem data collected, and will compare it. And the dental examination involves the following steps. So the post-examination team, exposure of the jaws in the body, removal of the jaw bones if required, and radiographic record, cleaning and elimination of debris and destroyed soft tissue. So this postmortem dental team, so that is going to do all this, and they will examine and they will record all the findings on the pink form. And dental records, then they are collected, examination records, treatment records, radiographic records, photographic records, models and casts of the teeth, prostheses. So all these are then collected, and then postmortem data and antemortem data. So they are compared, and team will be provided with the antemortem and postmortem data relevant to the teeth and jaws, along with any personal items, clothing, and physical, anthropological, and medical data collected by other teams of the site. And data is sorted into groups and matched with the antemortem data. The groups may be broad, like race or gender, and further subdivided into records showing restorations, type of restorations, missing teeth, and so on. And computer can also help in this. There are various software which can help in the identification in this process. And tooth roots are very important, because this is composed of cementum, and dentin pulp have been shown to yield 10 times more DNA than the crown. And pulp and cementum are the most valuable sources of nuclear and mitochondrial DNA of the tooth, and dentin is a good source of mitochondrial DNA. Enamel is important in the preservation of dentin, cementum, and pulp, but is devoid of DNA. So don't take the enamel. So enamel should not be sampled with other soft tissue, as it will have a dilution effect, and it contains high concentration of calcium, which may complicate the extraction process and inhibit PCR amplification. So the tooth roots, they are very, very important, and the material should be taken from them, pulp and the cement. And if we talk about the global scenario of the forensic odontology, there are different organizations: American Board of Forensic Odontology, American Society of Forensic Odontology, Bureau of Legal Dentistry, British Association for Forensic Odontology, International Organization for Forensic Odontostomatology, Indo-Pacific Academy of Forensic Odontology, and that is working in our area. And if you are interested, you can become the member of the INPAFO. And then there is F4, it is based mainly in Italy, is for Australian Society of Forensic Odontology, and then in Belgium, and there is Wolfog. And as far as India is concerned, Indo-Pacific Academy of Forensic Odontology working mainly in India, and with the efforts of the Indo-Pacific Academy of Forensic Odontology, various postgraduate courses, MSc Forensic Odontology have started at various places, and now it has been introduced at the undergraduate level as a special module. And that is the achievement of the hard work by the members of the Indo-Pacific Academy of Forensic Odontology, that this is now in BDS courses. So all the undergraduate students will learn about the forensic odontology, and forensic odontology will progress further in India. So there is also Indian Association of Forensic Odontology, and members of the Forensic Medicine and Forensic Odontology organization, they are also working. As far as the Indo-Pacific Academy of Forensic Odontology is concerned, they have held total 8 conferences. So the first conference was done at Gyan Sagar Dental College, second at Santosh Medical College, Ghaziabad, third class was at Punjabi University, Patiala, fourth conference was again at Gyan Sagar Dental College, Ramnagar, fifth conference at King George Dental College, Lucknow, sixth conference was at Jirakpur, Punjab, seventh conference was at Sudan, and eighth conference was at Chandigarh University, India, and the ninth conference now is going to be held in the month of June at Nepal. So all of you are invited. If you get interested in forensic odontology, you should come there and study it further. It publishes its own journal. If you have some working on the forensic odontology and you wish to publish papers, you can send it there. So it has its own website, inpafo.org, and you can visit that website also. And what is the future of forensic odontology? We wish to have the better managed TBI teams, better data for age estimation, better data for sex determination, research, establishment of unit and establishment of departments, and specialty degrees. So we want MDS in forensic odontology to start in India, and universal and better keeping of the dental records. So there are some latest dental technology which I just rushed through this, and it is the you can have a portable dental X-ray generator, you can have cone beam computer tomography, and scanning electron microscope, energy dispersive X-ray spectroscopy, and electron microscopes, and X-ray fluorescent spectrophotometers, X-ray synchrotron microtomography, and computer-assisted dental identification software, CAPME and WinID3. So now, in addition to this, artificial intelligence, smart toothbrush, augmented reality, virtual reality, teledentistry, computer-assisted designing, and 3D printing, and intraoral cameras are there. So artificial intelligence now, this is the thing which has come and which has taken over any other thing, and it is a thing of the future, and all of you should know about the artificial intelligence because it is going to replace everything in the future to come. So there are smart toothbrush which is taking all the dental records, and later on it can also helpful in identification in the times to come. So there is augmented reality. So how the things will look like in the future after treatment, they can show it beforehand. And teledentistry, a person sitting at a different place and giving opinion at different place, that is possible. And the intraoral cameras. So first mouth opening was so wide and person used to become tired of opening the mouth for so long. Now the intraoral cameras are there, which is helping, but simultaneously is recording all the minute details, which can later on help in the identification process too. There is a 3D printing. So this has again coming in a big way, and 3D printing processes are available. So these will be prepared, and in this the various chips can be introduced and which can help in the identification at the time. and regenerative dentistry is coming forward, and crispy are gene editing, so that is going to take the treatment to the new heights. But all these things which are coming, ultimately they will have all their medical legal aspects, and which we need to study and which we need to get accustomed to. And I will like to conclude that forensic odontology has a great future ahead, and it is a separate entity in the it should be a separate entity in the dental college, and forensic odontologists, wherever possible, they should be involved in the postmortem work team, and they have a big role in the disaster victim identification, and they have a big role in the identification of the dead bodies, so that the dead body can be properly disposed of and a humanitarian service can be given to all the dead bodies. And so these are a few references which I have taken, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. You have highlighted very well about the various aspects of forensic odontology in the race, age, and sex determination, and also facial reconstruction techniques and DNA significance. With due permission from chairperson and speaker of this session, we wanted to take the questions from the participants. Sir, may I?
Yes, please.
Sir, जी sir. So the first question by some participant, the question is what, sir, if the tissue get teared, how it will be used to identify the culprit?
If the tissue get torn,
Yes,
how?
sir.
So there are so many things. Whenever two things come in contact with each other, they leave some trace marks to each other.
Mhm.
So depending upon what type of crime it is, for example, there is a tissue, there is a bite mark, it has been taken away, but still there will be transfer of the DNA to the torn tissue. From that, even we can do it. And if it is a torn, we can see that how that tissue has been torn and how the crime has been committed, and from that also we can find out, we can help the law process.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The next question from another participant. To find differences in male and female skeleton or from teeth, which method we used in forensic science?
So it again depends that skeleton comes in which form. So anthropology, the measurements are the first thing. So you can find out the age, you can find out the gender, you can find out the race, and if the DNA is still, when the bones come, the skeleton comes, sometimes still we can take out the DNA from that, and that can help us in absolute identification if some reference DNA material is available, or if the data of the person is in the DNA data bank, then it can help in the identification. Thank you.
Thank you. One more question is that how to know the quantity of face reconstruction material to be applied on which the portion of face? Isn't it total depending on the matter which is being used for reconstruction?
No, so there various studies have been done, and that at what level, how much thickness is there. So only that much tissue is applied. So it is so say at the chin, the different, at the cheek, the thickness is different. So from the various races, from the various communities, those studies have been done, and that how much thickness should be there. So that is applied, and the final things comes out in a good way. So there is a need to have more and more studies in the different regions, so that we can have the better data and better results can be obtained.
Thank you, sir. So it is my personal question from you, because I am also interested in this field. Sir, can we correlate this Ruge pattern with the bite mark to determine the sex of the individual?
Usually in the bite marks, the Ruge pattern is not coming, but Ruge pattern we are using only in case of burns, or there is massive other, because this when no other thing is available, because still it is not that widely studied. But yes, when nothing is available, yes, this of course is going to help in certain situations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. With due
Thank you.
permission from chairperson, sir. Sir, can I take another session?
Yeah, please go ahead with the next speaker.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Gauriya,
Thank you, sir.
for
Thank
a
you, sir,
very
very much.
informative talk, very extensively informative talk.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Now I am delighted to introduce to this gathering our second speaker for this session, Dr. Vimukti Chauhan, Assistant Director, Forensic Toxicology Division, Central Forensic Science Laboratory, Chandigarh. Today, she will be talking on forensic toxicology and its significance. Before this session begins, it's my pleasure to introduce this gathering to our second speaker, Dr. Vimukti Chauhan. Dr. Vimukti Chauhan did his PhD from Charan Singh University, earlier Meerut University in 2003. During his PhD, she started her career as Chief Chemist at Cobbs Health Product Limited. Dr. Chauhan joined Central Forensic Science Laboratory in the year 2001 and held various prestigious positions like Assistant Director, Senior Scientific Officer. During her period of service, she gave her valuable contribution by the scientific examination of evidentiary value materials, performed research and development for novel and improved technology, and maintenance of NABL accreditation system or quality management system in Central Forensic Science Laboratory, Chandigarh. She is aggressively working towards establishing and maintaining quality and timeliness of service output of the discipline laboratory through scientific examination of evidentiary value materials and report in respect of the cases assigned and allied work in one and more specific forensic discipline. While serving 22 years in the Central Forensic Science Laboratory, ma'am has been the chemical analyzer to the Government of India and submitted thousands of forensic reports to the Honorable Court and also appeared as government scientific experts in many sessions trials. For her perseverance and dedication, Dr. Chauhan has been awarded numerous awards like Union Home Minister Award for Excellent Service in Forensic Chemical Science in 2018 from Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India, and achieved recognition from Chief Forensic Scientist for outstanding performance, sincere efforts and dedication in the year 2004, 2012, 2013, and Excellence Performance Award for Q&D activity for the year 1996, 1997, 1998 during her service at Cobbs Health Product Limited, Ghaziabad. With this word, now I would like to invite ma'am to address this gathering. Over to you, ma'am. Ma'am, you are not audible. Yes, ma'am. Now.
Namaskar, Dr. Gauriya, Dr. Guru Prasad, and Dr. Shukla, and to my lovely audiences. My today's topic Namaskar, Dr. Gautam.
Namaskar.
Just a moment, Poonam.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
try to share my screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Google Drive. Desktop पे ही ना ये क्या ये थोड़ी होगा Poonam, I am unable to share my file at desktop.
Ma'am, you can share, we can share at our side also. You please share your
PPT.
presentation with us.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. हो रहा है. Yes, ma'am. Now it is visible, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Namaskar to Gautam sir. Today's the topic of my presentation is emerging issues and innovative forensic practices for sustainable development while in focusing on forensic toxicology or forensic chemical science. Forensic science as a progressive legal science has been showing immense potentiality in the chemical justice delivery system through reorganization, identification, individualization, and evaluation of physical evidences using the methods of natural science in the matter of legal significance. Further, forensic science is a public good that should be equally available to all. That is our main motto. By providing science to the criminal justice system, forensic science supports social and economic stability by enabling the rule of law. It also supports investigation, demonstrator association between people, places, and things involved in criminal activities. Now I am coming to the main topic. Forensic toxicology is defined as the determination of drug use, poisoning, or exposure to toxic substance as part of a legal investigation. Otherwise, toxicology is a very broad term. I am defining here only forensic toxicology. Role of forensic toxicologist. Forensic toxicology investigation begins with the fundamental and critical requirement of acquisition of an appropriate specimen. Beyond this, a suitable scientific technique must be applied to analyze these specimens. Further, the forensic toxicologist must be familiar with a wide range of chemical substances and utilized his or her knowledge from other basic science disciplines also. Now I am coming to the core topic of the conference, which is emerging issue in forensic toxicology or forensic chemical science. As the field of forensic toxicology expands and improves, forensic toxicologists continue to face multiple challenges such as emergence of new drug, new psychoactive substances, or new poisons. Different standards among laboratories, another issue which needs our attention. Discrepancies in the interpretation of toxicological findings, limited sample size, lack of validated methods, matrix interference, use of toxic chemicals in large amount while analyzing postmortem samples, and One of the most concerned and talkable topic is improper collection, storage, and preservation of post-mortem samples, which is not in our hand. Non-availability of gastric lavage is another issue for which we have to focus. Post-mortem redistribution, post-mortem interval, which we cannot, which is beyond our control. Professional guidelines, accreditation of laboratories and certification of practitioners, and adherence to minimum standard of practice. Use of sensitive analytical techniques and upgrading them as per the emerging of new substances. Sample extraction, preparation for analysis, drug interaction, complex chemical substance and their metabolites, and unavailability of facility for the examination of snake venom toxin in forensic science laboratories is our concern. Discrepancies in the interpretation of toxicological findings. Interpretation of post-mortem toxicological result is a complex area. It is to be presumed that concentration of drugs and poisons measured in blood obtained at autopsy reflected this situation at the time of death. Drug and poisons can change concentration of post-mortem blood or samples due to poor or unequal quality of blood and other specimens. Anaerobic metabolism and redistribution further makes it difficult and handicapped the forensic toxicology. Proper interpretation of toxicological findings required. Integrating the clinical settings and findings with the toxicological result in a way that makes medical sense. Drug interaction. A major concern, the interpretation of toxicology results in post-mortem specimen require the toxicologist and the pathologist to be cognizant of drug-drug interaction, drug-alcohol interaction. The absence of reference data of drug and poison concentration in the putrefied tissue poses a problem to meaningfully and reliably conduct toxicological testing. Sample extraction and preparation for analysis. Sample preparation is a technique in toxicology. Sample preparation is an extra step which we need to follow to analyze our target analytes. Sample preparation is required to make the analyte compatible with these instrumentation and to remove emetic interference and to pre-concentrate them. These are our objectives while we are going for sample preparation. And for this purpose, we use solid phase extraction, liquid extraction. These are the techniques which we have been widely using. For this purpose, solid phase extraction and However, since the development of green analytical technique from green chemistry, a plethora of micro extraction and miniaturized extraction technique have been developed. We all know LLE, liquid extraction, is based on the establishment of distribution equilibrium of the analytes between two immiscible phases, an aqueous and an organic phase. Apparatus for LLE is a separating funnel. Important disadvantages of this technique is consumption of large volumes of expensive and toxic solvents, difficult phase separation, low concentration factor. Now we come to the recent advances in micro sample preparation. The earlier techniques facilitate to use more toxic chemicals. However, in recent advances, it is a future of micro extraction techniques. Then what is micro extraction? Micro extraction is defined as an extraction technique where the volume of extracting phase is very small. Thus, we are avoiding toxic chemicals. So the extracting phase is very small and in relation to the volume of sample. Further, extraction of analyte is not exhaustive one. Some of the micro extraction techniques are as DLLME, dispersive liquid-liquid micro extraction technique, SME, solvent micro extraction technique, SDME, single drop micro extraction technique, and SPME, solid phase micro extraction technique. Further, there is an extension in DLME, which is solidification of solid floating drop as DLLME, SFO, and ultrasound assisted DLME. These techniques are the future of extraction and pre-concentration techniques. So micro extraction is defined as an extraction technique where I have already told the volume of extraction phase is very small and is further divided in this manner. Micro extraction is either solid phase micro extraction or liquid phase micro extraction. This is a diagrammatic representation of DLLME. In this technique, we need first I'm trying to elaborate it with the help of blood. The first step is protein precipitation, either with methanol or acetonitrile, followed by centrifugation and dilution with ultra pure water. Here I am representing with the help of an example where we are using 0.4 microliter of acetonitrile. We have validated this method for drugs, basic drugs, where we are only using 0.4 microliter of acetonitrile and 60 microliter of chloroform. With the help of a syringe, it is forcefully injected into the solvent phase. It's a ternary solvent phase system where one solution is aqueous and the other two is known as disperser solvent and extraction solvent. Here, this is 0.4 ml acetonitrile is disperser solvent in this particular example, and chloroform is used as extraction solvent. The mixture of these two with the help of syringe is injected into deproteinized blood in aqueous phase. The tiny droplets were formed, as you can see in the diagram in this, which is then vortexed at 2000 RPM and then centrifuged at 5000 RPM or for 3 minutes. Once we centrifuge the whole sample along with disperser and extraction solvent, these tiny droplets settled at the bottom in the form of sedimented phase. This bottom sedimented phase is taken out with the help of a syringe, and then we can go for derivatization if needed, or directly send the sample for this 440 microliter of the sedimented phase to sample. Here, either we go for derivatization or we can directly go for GCMS analysis or whatever instrumentation technique, opting for that particular analyte. This is DLME with SFO. DLME with SFO. Here again, we are injecting the sample, the mixture of disperser and extraction solvent. Then we vortexed it, we centrifuged it. But in this particular technique, instead of sedimented phase, we got that mixture or that droplets as this floating droplet, which is then freezed. This droplet or these samples, here I am giving the example of acetone and undecanol, which floats as a red spot. Once we freezed it, it will turn into solid, which we take it out with the help of this tool, and this particular solidified DLME sample is then injected into the instrument of our choice. This is another technique where the sample which we have earlier in pure DLLME, the extraction solvent used should be settled down at the bottom, and in this technique it should float at the as a top layer, which can be solidified during ice bath. These techniques are all micro extraction technique, where we use very less amount of toxic solvents. Then it comes the introduction of SPME. It is a well-known technique. SPME is a simple and efficient technique which eliminates the necessity of using solvents. The most widely used technique of sampling with solid phase micro extraction consists of exposing a very small amount of extracting phase associated with fiber to the sample. We just put the fiber into the sample for a predetermined amount of time. For all this, we need validation of that particular method for that particular drug or poison. Essentially, SPME consists of two discrete steps: solute absorption from the sample matrix into a thick layer of silicon or related absorptive material, followed by transfer of absorbed analytes into a chromatography inlet system by thermal or liquid desorption. Nowadays, we are getting instruments which already used SPME as a hyphenated technique. Here we can see a diagrammatic representation. This is a modified syringe-like instrument. What is SPME device? I tried to elaborate it in the form of this diagram. You can see here it is a modified syringe-like instrument. The fused silica fiber, here you can see, having a small size and cylindrical shape, is connected to stainless steel tubing. This is the tubing. That is to provide additional mechanical strength to the fiber assembly for repeated sampling. This stainless steel tubing is connected to specially designed syringe-like instrument. A small volume of extraction phase, which is as less as amount to 1 microliter, coated on fused silica support, is mounted in a modified syringe. This is its plunger, barrel, and there is septum piercing needle. Coated silica fiber is here. Advantages of these techniques. Since nowadays micro extraction techniques are quite popular, on each and every day we are getting validation of these techniques with respect to different poison or drugs. So what are the advantages so that this technique is emerging as a sustainable development? These micro extraction techniques are capable of minimizing the operator risk, waste generation, energy, and solvent consumption. Use of interesting alternative solvents, which could be greener solution for replacement high toxicity solvent. These micro extraction techniques are all greener techniques. These methods are capable of minimizing the cost of extraction solvent and are environmental friendly. Now, what are the goal of these green methods? How they are sustainable? In routine toxicological analysis, where hundreds of analyses performed per day, it is not safe for environmental conditions, healthy point of view, because the generated wastes are usually higher than the pollutants. For that particular reason, during the last years, greener alternatives have been proposed. These methods were validated because they are less harmful to the environment and to the researcher. What is the reason of green analytical chemistry popularity is it can be applied in many forms. One of the segments is the reduction of amount and toxicity of the solvents and reagents used. Thus, high toxicity solvents, especially the halogenated solvents, can be avoided from being used in sample preparation, which are carcinogenic. Here, we introduce, by the help of green air chemistry or green analytical methods, the concept of 3 R's, which is reduce, replace, recycle. These methods are capable of minimizing further the cost of extraction solvent and undoubtedly taking care of environment. Now we come to new psychoactive substances. Nowadays very concerned, all the legal agencies and toxicologists and chemical science pathologists, everybody is concerned about this new term NPS, new psychoactive substances. The reason is owing to the constant influx of new drugs and the lack of reference standard. The detection and quantification of NPS, specifically in biological fluids, are significant challenge for forensic toxicologists. Further, forensic toxicologists aspire to attain the highest analytical standard in each laboratory. There are limited resources for inadequate staffing, technology, training, experience, expertise, and the availability of high-end response instruments, which impact directly on the quality of laboratory analysis. Now we come to the innovative part of the techniques in forensic toxicology. Instrumental methods or instrumental techniques are the cornerstone of modern forensic toxicology analysis. Most recent application of current technology for analysis of toxicant in biological fluids and tissues are as follows. We all almost aware and use these techniques, but here I want to mention it because we cannot go without mentioning it. The most important and most popular one is gas chromatograph with MS, or we can say it QMS, quadrupole mass spectrometer, liquid chromatograph mass spectrometer, or LC-MS, magnetic sector MS, GC combustion isotope MS, time of flight mass spectrometers, and Fourier transform ion cyclotron resonance mass spectrometers. These are the innovative techniques already used in forensic toxicology at certain point for certain poisons. Molecules leaving the GC. Now I'm talking about molecules. This is mass spectrometer. Molecules are analyzed. I'm telling that principle, general principle. Molecules are ionized as they sequentially enter the ion source. The most common ionization technique is electron ionization. Molecules leaving the GC and GC enter quadrupole microspectrometer and are bombarded by a beam of electrons. Electrons are then removed from the molecules, producing unstable positive ion, popularly known as molecular ion, fracture into more stable fragments. The beauty of GC mass is that the energy of the electron beam can be adjusted, but is commonly set as 70 electron volt. Here, mass to charge ratio and abundances of fragments created by this high energy interaction are reproducible over time and between instruments and are characteristic for the compound being analyzed. This is the feature. This feature every forensic toxicologist exploit to get the result. After formation in the ionization chamber, charged fragments are then transferred with carrier gas molecule to mass detector that is maintained at very low pressure, and analyte identification is achieved at this point by the detection of unique fingerprint of an ion fragment. The use of library enter at this point. I try to explain it with the help of this schematic diagram of a quadrupole mass spectrometer. The ion source, the help of ion source, the created ion source slit enter into these quadrupole rod, and with the physics formula, it forms a definite motion, and a heavier and lower mass ions channelized to detector with the help of this exit slit one by one. At this point, this detector detect them as per their unique fingerprint. Now, the most emerging issue every toxicologist is facing is NPS, new psychoactive molecules that recently have appeared in the scenario of legal system. Now, what are these NPS? The problem with these NPS is that these products are claimed to contain only natural, non-illegal compounds, and thus consequently have no limitation in their commercial distribution. Although some research exhibits that these compounds have important psychoactive effects. Hence, this heterogeneous class of product is also named smart drugs, or more scientifically, we call them NPS, new psychoactive substances. In the recent years, numerous cases of acute intoxication and a few deaths associated with NPS intake have been reported. The diffusion of the NPS at international level has become a problem of highest concern, and thus the problem of forensic toxicologists also. The limited availability of pure standards of NPS and their metabolite, and the scarce information on the chromatographic characteristics, their spectral features of these newest compounds further hindered their identification through the traditional mass spectrography or mass spectrometers with chromatography. Matrix effect and the potential of nanofluidic separation technique. Every toxicologist is on daily basis facing the problem of matrix effect. In each and every case, this is the effect which is most biggest challenge in our forensic toxicology. So how we can define this matrix effect? The term matrix effect can be defined as the direct or indirect alteration or interference in response due to the presence of unintended analytes or other interfering substance in the sample. Since we are dealing with biological samples, matrix effect is our concern. We need to focus this and we need to neutralize the matrix effect. However, the matrix effect is dependent on instrumental factors also, such as type of ion source, analytical condition, remarkably on the selectivity of sample treatment. How we treat the sample prior to instrument analysis is very important to neutralize the matrix effect. We cannot neutralize it completely, but we can bring it to the minimum. So these are the analytical approaches I further need to discuss. One is LCMS. This technology has been applied to drugs of abuse screening. But mainly 4 different instrumental approaches are taken here, all of them exploiting soft API conditions such as electrospray, ESI, atmospheric pressure chemical ionization, APCI. HRMS, another emerging technique, not very popular, but need to be addressed here at this point when we are talking about emerging techniques and sustainable development. HRMS is one needs to be underlined. A more recent MS technology offers the possibility to overcome the limitation of multi-target screening. That's its advantage, multi-target screening. High resolution, high accuracy mass spectrometry, enabling accurate mass determination of ionic species obtained from drugs and their metabolites. The advantage of this technique is that it has an accuracy of at least 4 decimal digit. 4 main type of technological solutions are now available for HRMS: sector instrument, time of flight MS, Fourier transform ion cyclotron resonance, and electrostatic traps. These instruments can afford a resolution up to 40,000 to 50,000, and their accuracy is as amazing than less than 3 ppm. Toxicologist, this is a new emerging technique which needs to be inculcated in our routine analysis. Another technique which I want to mention here is capillary electrophoresis. It is not the popular amongst the toxicologists, but it really looking forward for the entry into forensic toxicology field. Why? Separation of analyte. First of all, I'm explaining principle in 2 or 3 lines. Separation, it separates analyte ions via differential migration in an electric field coupled with electroosmotic flow of mobile phase. Then what are their advantages? It only needs nanoliter of sample. It has high speed and high resolution. And above all, virtually no band broadening instrumentation. After having a good literature survey, what I found here is that there is a scattered but intriguing evidence that CE coupled with mass spectrometry is less prone to ion separation phenomena as compared to liquid chromatography mass spectrometry. Here I want to mention that although there are some limitations, but CE electrospray ionization mass spectrometry can tolerate the presence of non-volatile separation electrodes. Further, I want to conclude that CEMS may deserve a specific attention and additional efforts as a potentially matrix effect free technique. The problem every toxicologist is facing is matrix effect. And this particular technique offers or considered as matrix effect free technique with certain limitations, of course. Thank you. I have discussed almost all the techniques which I myself considered as part of sustainable development in the field of forensic toxicology, or I can say in the field of forensic chemical science. Thank you, sir, and all the delegates present here. Thank you for being patient with me.
Thank you so much, ma'am. You have your lecture is very informative. You have very well highlighted about the various extraction methods and their advancement. Now I request the session chair to please give floral token of remembrance for her deliberation.
Thank you. So nice of you. That's amazing.
In this room, we are having some questions, ma'am, from the participants. So with due permission from chairperson and ma'am.
I like to answer.
Yes. So shall I take the questions, ma'am?
Yes, please.
Ma'am, this question is about their job. How to join CFSL.
Most welcome. You just have to study hard and take experience of analysis specifically. Toxicology is a difficult subject.
Yes,
normally people don't want to join toxicology, but most welcome. Come in the competition, and we love to have all of you as our Society of Toxicologists.
Ma'am, one question from I personally wanted to ask, ma'am, whether how we can validate the extraction method, what parameters are considered to validate the extraction method, like solvent extraction or any other such kind?
Right. I have 5 minutes to explain this because validation is a huge subject. By the permission of chair, I want 5 minutes to explain this. Actually, validation, the method of validation, first part is optimization, right? So whatever parameters we are taking for any extraction, for example, let me take the example of DLLME here. So in DLLME, what we need? We need sample, of course, right? So the amount of sample, right? Yani target analyte, which we obtain at the end of the experiment. Amount of disperser solvent, amount of extraction solvent, pH, then salting out effect, and then we try to obtain graphs for all, linearity for all these parameters, right? Once we obtain all these parameters, we try to obtain the linearity of the experiment as a whole, right? So, for example, we got the linearity is 0.10 microgram to 10 microgram per liter. Then what we need to do statistically, we need to calculate with the help of these parameters we try to find out LOD, which is thrice the signal to noise ratio, and LOQ, which is 10 times the signal to noise ratio. We find out LOD, LOQ. Here for optimization, we can also use various statistical methodologies, right? There are various softwares are available, CCD, Plackett-Berman analysis. These are some analysis with the help of these statistical method by which we can validate or optimize our method with respect to our target analyte or a series of target analytes. Apart from instrumental condition, I am not talking about
Yes,
instrumental
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
at this moment.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I request chairperson of this session to conclude this session. Sir, over to you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Madam Nandini Mansur. At the outset, I thank both the speakers, Dr. Rakesh Kumar Goria and also Dr. Vimukti Chauhan, for their deliberations and their lecture. Both the lectures were extremely informative, and they explained the topics in much detail with all their slides. Particularly interesting was both of them introduced the students to the new techniques which are going to come into forensic science. Like Dr. Goria was talking about, while talking about odontology, forensic odontology, he talked the new technologies like artificial intelligence, 3D printing, and the new imaging techniques which will be coming into use in forensic science. Now, these are the emerging areas because the future students will have to be familiar with the new techniques, because the new techniques may soon replace the old techniques because they are more precise in analysis and more accurate, and that would give more accurate information, since the forensic analysis is all about finding the truth and getting the justice. So in that process, the accuracy will take priority over everything else. Similarly, the second talk by Dr. Vimukti again talked about the new chemical analysis techniques that are coming to deal with especially the new problems like new psychoactive substances. These days we are hearing more and more about these new psychoactive substances. They are so new that it's impossible for forensic science analysts to exactly say what kind of chemical has been used in the crime. Each time, because of the commercial interest, we are getting more and more of this kind of drugs. And unfortunately, the youngsters are also falling a prey to this new type of drugs. So their use is also getting extended, and the new drugs are also coming frequently to the markets. About sustainability, I'm glad that Dr. Vimukti Chauhan also touched upon this, how to reduce the use and also how to recycle and reuse the chemicals in the process, because all our future analysis is focused towards sustainability, and forensic science may not be left out of it. Although I guess compared to the industries, the chemicals which forensic science people use are much lesser, but still they need to adopt newer techniques and newer chemicals to keep pace with the advances in the crime. So forensic science needs to keep pace with all the advances in the crime. And to that extent, they also need to develop new techniques of analysis. Both the talks have been very helpful in informing the students about these techniques. And I thank both of them for finding time to come to this national symposium. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Our next, there will be a break for 30 minutes. Next plenary session will be start from 3 p.m. So all participants are requested to stay with us. Now, with due permission, I want to declare this plenary session closed. Sir. Can I?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. So this session is closed.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Namaskar, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, madam, from my side.
Namaskar, sir.
Sir,
Guru Prasad sir, धन्यवाद sir, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gautam sir,
हाँ
बोलिए sir.
हाँ विमुक्ति मैडम ने बहुत अच्छा बोला
Yes, sir. I'm your student only.
क्योंकि अभी जब वो बोल रही थी ना उसके बारे में GCMS के बारे में सैंपल प्रिपरेशन वो खुद हैंडल करती है इसलिए उनको एक एक चीज में एक एक चीज देख रहा था कि कैसे करना वो टाफला जी बड़ा कठिन काम है आप जानते ही
जी सर.
है ना बहुत अच्छा बोला मुझे बहुत खुशी हो रही थी अब बोल रही थी
Thank you very much, sir.
बहुत अच्छा
Since I am your disciple, so you are always happy for me.
सवाल नहीं उठता
And I always want to make proud of.
नहीं हमेशा हमेशा बहुत अच्छा किया
Thank you,
है
sir.
ना
Thanks.
बस अब शुरुआत अब शुरू हो गई है आपको ऐसे ही आना पड़ेगा बार बार
As you directed,
जो
sir.
शुक्ला साहब इनको अपन बुलाते रहेंगे
Yes sir, definitely sir.
क्योंकि
मैडम
इनका काम तो एक्चुअल वर्क है ना अब पूनम मैडम ने तो इनके साथ काम किया है चलिए बहुत अच्छा लगा डॉक्टर विमुक्ति चौहान ना थैंक यू
Thank you, madam.
Namaskar.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Poonam. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye, ma'am. Thank you.